439 men die in 14 seconds. The explosion travels faster than sound itself. It is 8:10 in the morning on October 14, 1913. Nearly 2,000 feet below the Aber Valley in South Wales, in a tunnel called the Lancaster Seam, methane has been pooling for hours. The ventilation system is inadequate. Everyone knows this. A government inspector flagged it years ago. The company paid a fine of £24 and changed nothing. Now a spark finds the gas. The source is never conclusively proven. Investigators will later point to illegal electrical signaling equipment, possibly a damaged cable arcing in the dark. It does not matter what starts it. What matters is what happens next. The flame front rips through the Lancaster section at 1,500 feet per second. This is faster than a rifle bullet. The methane combustion superheats the air to nearly 3,000 degrees. It vaporizes timber pit props. It tears steel coal tubs from their rails and hurls them like shrapnel. The pressure wave ruptures eardrums, collapses lungs, throws grown men against rock faces hard enough to break every bone in their bodies. But the initial blast is only the beginning. The heat ignites coal dust suspended in the tunnel air. This triggers a secondary explosion, then another. The fire cascades through the interconnected workings, each detonation feeding the next. The chain reaction spreading through miles of underground passages like lightning branching through a storm cloud. At the surface, the winding gear over the downcast shaft shudders violently. A column of black dust and orange flame erupts from the pit mouth, shooting debris hundreds of feet into the air. The boom rolls across the valley. This is Senghenydd, a village of 12,000 people carved into the steep green hillsides of Glamorgan, South Wales. The Universal Colliery dominates everything here. It is owned by the Lewis Murphy Consolidated Collieries Company, managed by a man named Edward Shaw. The pit produces coal for the Royal Navy, for the railways, for the factories driving the British Empire. South Wales is the largest coal-producing region in the nation. Senghenydd exists because the mine exists. 950 men descended into the earth for the morning shift. Fathers and sons working the same seams. Boys as young as 14, hauling coal in the darkness. Entire families sending every able body underground because the pay, while poor, is the only pay there is. Now women emerge from terraced houses along the valley slopes. They have heard the sound. They know what it means. This same colliery killed 81 men in an explosion 12 years earlier. The danger is not abstract here. It is woven into daily life. Every wife, every mother, every child understands that the mountain can swallow their men without warning. They run toward the pithead. Dozens at first, then hundreds. They crowd against the colliery gates, faces turned toward the shaft head, watching smoke pour from the wounded earth. The winding engine still turns. The cage system still functions. Someone might still come up. Underground, in passages now choked with carbon monoxide and afterdamp, survivors stumble through absolute darkness. Their lamps are extinguished. The ventilation system has failed completely. They have minutes to find breathable air. Most of them will not. The Glamorgan Valley runs narrow and deep. Steep hillsides press in on both sides, funneling wind and rain down to the River Aber. At the valley floor sits Senghenydd, a town of 8,000 people that exists for one reason: coal. Universal Colliery opened in 1896. By 1913, it pulls 400,000 tons of anthracite from the earth each year. The seam runs rich and hot, 800 feet below the surface. 2 shafts pierce the ground. The downcast shaft draws fresh air into the tunnels. The upcast shaft pulls stale air out, heated by an underground furnace that creates the draft. This is the mine's respiratory system. It breathes in, it breathes out. 950 men descend each morning shift. Colliers work the coal face, hacking at the seam with mandrels and picks. They earn 6 to 8 shillings a day, enough to rent a terrace house and feed a family. Barely. The work is paid by the ton, so men cut fast and cut deep. William Harris is 42 years old. He has worked coal since he was 12. He has 7 children at home, the youngest still in nappies. His shift starts at 6 in the morning. Thomas Bevan is 14. He works as a haulier, leading pit ponies through the tunnels, dragging trams of coal back to the shaft. He earns 3 shillings a day. His mother packs his food tin each morning before dawn. John and David Davies are brothers. They work the same stall, cutting coal side by side. They walk to the pit together. They ride the cage down together. The youngest workers are door boys. Some are 14, a few are younger. They sit alone in the darkness, opening and closing ventilation doors as trams pass through. They control the airflow. They carry Davy lamps, flame safety lamps designed 70 years earlier. If the flame burns blue and tall, firedamp is present. Methane, the gas that kills. This mine has killed before. On May 24, 1901, an explosion ripped through the Universal Colliery. 81 men died. Firedamp had accumulated in the tunnels. A spark found it. The investigation named causes: poor ventilation, accumulated coal dust. Inspectors recommended changes. Stone dust should be spread on tunnel floors to suppress coal dust explosions. Ventilation should be improved. Naked flames should be prohibited. The mine's owner was William Lewis, Lord Merthyr, a coal baron, a member of Parliament, a man who owned collieries across South Wales. His company was fined £24 for safety violations after 81 men burned to death. That works out to roughly 6 shillings per body, less than a day's wage for a collier. Some recommendations were implemented, most were not. Stone dusting cost money. Improved ventilation cost money. The mine kept producing. Cardiff docks ship 1 million tonnes of Welsh steam coal every month in 1913. It powers the Royal Navy. It fuels steamships crossing every ocean. It heats homes from London to Buenos Aires. The owners of Universal Colliery are making money. The seam is productive. The men keep descending. On the morning of October 14, 1913, the night shift has just ended. The day shift is underground. 935 men and boys spread through miles of tunnels. William Harris is at the coal face. Thomas Bevan is with his pony. The Davies brothers are working their stall. It is 8:10 in the morning. The first explosion is survivable. Methane ignites at the Universal seam, 800 yards from the pit bottom. The blast kills men nearest the source instantly, but dozens further out are still alive. They hear the roar. They feel the pressure in their ears. Some start moving toward the shaft. They have 14 seconds. Coal dust coats every surface in a working mine. It settles on timbers, on walls, on the floor, on the men themselves. Years of extraction have left millions of fine particles suspended in the air and packed into every crevice. The initial methane blast does something catastrophic. It lifts this dust. It creates a fuel-air mixture throughout 5 miles of tunnels. At 14 seconds, the coal dust ignites. The secondary explosion is 10 times more powerful than the first. A pressure wave traveling over 600 miles per hour tears through the Lancaster and York districts. Roof timbers splinter. Coal faces collapse. Steel tubs weighing half a ton fly through roadways like shrapnel. The blast reverses the ventilation system entirely. Air that should flow down now rushes up. Air that should flow up now stalls. The fire consumes available oxygen in seconds. What replaces it is afterdamp. Afterdamp is mostly carbon monoxide. It is colorless. It is odorless. At a concentration of 0.4%, it kills a healthy man in under 3 minutes. The reversed ventilation pushes this poison through every tunnel, every crossheading, every dead end where men have taken shelter. 2,000 feet from the blast point, in passages untouched by fire or collapse, men sit down against the walls. They feel drowsy. They stop moving. They die without a mark on their bodies. The surface knows something is wrong immediately. Smoke pours from the upcast shaft. The cage in the downcast shaft is destroyed, the winding gear damaged. There is no way down. Word reaches the Mines Rescue Brigade stations at Crumlin and Aberarman. Captain E.H. Riches assembles his teams. They load proto-breathing apparatus into vehicles. Each set provides 30 minutes of oxygen. The men drive through the Aber Valley as fast as the roads allow. They arrive to find 200 yards of debris choking the downcast shaft. Timber, coal, twisted metal. Rescue means clearing it by hand. Crews work in relays through the early morning hours, dragging wreckage to the surface piece by piece. At 9:45, the first rescue team descends. What they find below confirms the worst fears. Bodies lie in the roadways, arranged as if sleeping. No burns, no wounds. Men caught mid-stride, slumped where the afterdamp reached them. Pit ponies dead in their stalls. In some areas, lamps still burn beside their owners. The rescue teams push deeper, marking locations, checking for breath. The proto-apparatus limits each descent to 25 minutes of useful work. Teams rotate constantly. The carbon monoxide concentration remains lethal in most districts. Then, in isolated pockets where the ventilation held or the collapse sealed off the afterdamp, they find survivors. Men who barricaded themselves behind brattice cloth. Men who reached natural air pockets near old workings. Men who simply got lucky. 72 emerge alive from the Universal Colliery. 439 do not. It is the deadliest mining disaster in British history. It will remain so. The final count comes in over days. 439 men and boys confirmed dead. 60 bodies never recovered, still entombed in the workings where the explosion caught them. Above ground, the arithmetic of loss multiplies. 205 women are now widows. 542 children no longer have fathers. The youngest victim is 14. The oldest is 62. Entire families are erased. In some houses on High Street, 3 generations of miners die in the same instant. The funerals begin immediately. There are too many dead for individual burials. On October 21st, mass interment begins at Penriol Cemetery. Gravediggers work through the night. Coffins are stacked 3 deep in long trenches because the ground cannot hold them any other way. Clergy from 6 denominations take shifts reading services. The processions stretch for miles. 4 days earlier, something unprecedented happens. King George V and Queen Mary arrive in Senghenydd. It is the first time a reigning British monarch visits the site of a disaster. The king walks among the wreckage. He speaks with widows. He sees the pithead where rescue teams are still bringing up remains. The visit lasts 3 hours. When he leaves, the crowds are silent. The formal reckoning begins November 3rd. Coroner Richard Garrett opens the inquest in the Aber Valley Institute. Witnesses testify for weeks. Mine inspectors present their findings. Ventilation experts explain what went wrong. The picture that emerges is damning. The jury returns a verdict of accidental death, but attached to it is a rider. The rider criticizes inadequate ventilation. It condemns the accumulation of coal dust in the roadways. It notes that warnings had been ignored for years. Prosecutions follow under the Coal Mines Act of 1911. Edward Shaw, the colliery manager, stands trial. So does the Universal Colliery Company. The charges detail specific failures to comply with safety regulations. The sentences come down. Shaw is fined £24. The company is fined £10. Total penalty for 439 deaths, £34. That works out to less than 2p per life, 1 shilling and 6p. The price of a loaf of bread. The outrage is immediate. The South Wales Miners' Federation sees its membership surge. Pit committees organise across the coalfield. The dead of Senghenydd become a rallying point for every safety demand that follows. Parliament acts. The Coal Mines Act of 1914 mandates stone dusting, the practice of spreading calcium powder through mine tunnels to suppress coal dust explosions. It is the specific lesson of Senghenydd written into law. The technique works. Dust explosions decline sharply in British mines. The disaster also accelerates a larger argument. If private owners cannot keep miners safe, perhaps the mines should belong to the nation. That argument takes 34 more years. In 1947, Britain nationalises its coal industry. The village rebuilds. The pit reopens. Mining continues at Senghenydd until 1928. The memorial comes last. In 1981, 68 years after the explosion, a monument is finally unveiled in the village. It stands near the site of the old pit head. Carved into the stone are all 439 names: fathers and sons, brothers, cousins, neighbours who walked to work together on an October morning and never walked home. Britain never forgot them. It just took nearly 7 decades to write their names in stone.